the Steelers ending the mystery about Roethlisberger yesterday. They re-signed him at a reduced rate. They bring him back for at least one more go-round. And I understand it. You know, Ben said it's not about the money. Well, Ben really fell on his sword because he's not able to dictate the terms here. He had no other choice here. And at the end of last season, it was kind of tough to watch the Steelers. Started out 11-0. We weren't quite sure if that was a paper-thin 11-0 start. They ended up 12-4. They suffered that brutal wild card loss to the Browns. But in stark contrast to Roethlisberger's career, he couldn't get the ball downfield. Now, it didn't help that he had receivers who couldn't hang on to the ball, but everything was underneath with that offense. They did not have a running game, and I thought it was all spoiled because you had a defense that I thought was pretty elite. Before Bud Dupree went out, that was a pretty elite defense, in my opinion. Ben just turned 39 earlier this week. He's not moving around with defenders hanging off of him like he used to, but that doesn't mean Pittsburgh can't win with a 39-year-old quarterback. It's not like Ben had a lot of mobility before. The Buccaneers won a Super Bowl with a 43-year-old quarterback. But I always felt that Brady's arm was stronger than Roethlisberger's arm. And at that age, you're usually seeing the zip leaves the football, leaves your arm. And that's a big difference here because then you could only throw underneath. You know, Drew Brees maybe never had that zip, but he had a little bit more zip. He didn't have it the last couple of years, and that's why I didn't pick the Saints. I was always nervous because I didn't know late in the season, you know, if you're traveling, you're on the road, you're in Green Bay, can you have that zip? Can you throw the ball down the field? And we saw that the Saints weren't able to do that. But the Steelers face some challenges. Big Ben needs to be better. Team needs to be better for all of this to work in 2021. It felt like an indictment on Mason Rudolph, the backup quarterback. He's going to be a free agent. And if Mason Rudolph had shown that he could be a starting quarterback, then maybe you say to Ben, thank you, nice parting gifts. They did bring in Dwayne Haskins. And, okay, you take a shot on Haskins. Doesn't cost you much. You bring him in. It's sort of like the Saints did with Jameis Winston, even though Haskins has less of a resume. You see what you have here. Maybe you have something. My thought was, are you ready to win now in Pittsburgh? Yes, I'm sure they feel that way. Does Ben give you a better opportunity than some other quarterback? I guess you could make that argument. My point was, I want to hit the reset button at the quarterbacking position as soon as I can. If you said Ben was playing at a high level, an elite level, then I would say, all right, Ben's our guy. But if the Steelers had a pick in the top 8, top 6, are they bringing Ben back? And maybe they do, but they have the 24th pick in the draft. And as far as quarterbacks go, that's no man's land. I don't know if they trade up. I don't know if you try to get a quarterback. And we're always surprised on draft day. And that's why I don't think Deshaun Watson is traded. I mean, if he's going to be traded, it'll be closer to the draft. You know, it might be the week of the draft. But the Kansas City Chiefs targeted Patrick Mahomes as their quarterback of the future, and they paid heavily to move up to get him. They had the 27th overall pick. So they gave that up, a third-round pick, and their 2018 first-round pick to Buffalo to move up to number 10 to select Mahomes. But they had to jump up because the Kansas City Chiefs were worried about the Arizona Cardinals. They were worried about the Saints. They were worried about the New York Giants, I believe. Those were the three teams they realized they had to get in front of because those teams were interested in Mahomes. And if you go back to, I believe that Monday before the draft when I came in and I said, here's the buzz from my source, Patrick Mahomes is moving up fast. Now, we weren't quite sure because if you look at all the mock drafts, everybody looked at him as a Brett Favre type player, risk taker, not quite sure he's disciplined, not a lot of wins in college. You know, they played on an average team. But Andy Reid saw something, and he went and got his guy. Not a quarterback, he got his guy. And that's the key. It's the same thing when you look at the Texans. They didn't go up to get a quarterback. They went up to get Deshaun Watson. They move up. Kansas City takes Patrick Mahomes. Sean Payton's been on the show, and he said, we were taking Patrick Mahomes, and instead they're at 11. They take Marshawn Lattimore. Now, the Bills drafted Josh Allen with the 7th overall pick the following year. That was their own pick. They traded up a few spots with Tampa to get him from 12 to 7. And then that 16th pick from the Mahomes trade, they got Tremaine Edmonds, who's a very good player. We forget, like, who did the Texans trade with to get Deshaun Watson? Right? Because you're going, oh, what are you going to give up? But when it works out, you don't care. Kansas City, it worked out. Buffalo, it worked out. But Kansas City had a good team. But they were sort of stuck in that this might be as good as we get. Alex Smith, very good quarterback, but not Patrick Mahomes. You know, Detroit with Matthew Stafford, you had gotten to the point where you said this is as good as it gets. And I was wondering, the number of teams right now, most important position in all the sports, the number of teams in the NFL that you can say they're satisfied with their quarterbacking situation. I'll start with the Bills, obviously. Ravens, yes. Browns, yes. Bengals, yes. I'm going to say the Titans with Tannehill, yes. They signed him up to that long-term deal. The Chiefs with Mahomes. Chargers. The Vikings, I'm going to say sort of with Kirk D. Cousins. The Buccaneers, one more year with Brady. And the Cardinals with Kyler Murray. That's it. That's 10 teams. I can't say Seattle is comfortable with the situation and or Russell Wilson is. The Texans with Deshaun Watson, they want him. He doesn't want them. So that leaves 22 teams right now with a question mark at the quarterbacking position. Yeah, McLovin.
And Dan Bickley from Arizona said that the Cardinals would gladly call for Deshaun Watson, too. Even those, the ones you just listed, are not 100%. Baker Mayfield, are they going to re-sign him?
Well, I know that it's a stretch with Kyler Murray. And Bickley, a columnist, radio host out there, said, hey, if they got a chance, they would bring in Deshaun Watson. Okay. I mean, I get that from... There's probably a few other teams on the list that if I said to the Vikings, you want, Deshaun Watson? Of course they do. Now, then I could reduce that list of, teams that have quarterbacks right now. If you said to the Browns, you're going to have Deshaun Watson or Baker Mayfield, they're taking Deshaun Watson. I don't know what they have to pay for him, but yes, I mean, it's an upgrade there. And also, there's a lot of talk about Russell Wilson and the Seahawks. I don't know what is new here. I know that Diana Rossini said that Seattle is taking calls. They're not making calls. Okay. Until they start making calls or responding, because I can take a phone call. Did I respond to the phone call? Hi, we're not here. Leave a message if you'd like to trade for Russell Wilson. Beep. Okay, you take phone calls. Nobody's advanced this story any more than what it was a couple of weeks ago when Russ came on the show. I saw yesterday where somebody was trying to say, oh, Seattle's upset Russ went public. Yeah, he said, my source told me that the day after Russell Wilson came on. So there's nothing new here. People are calling, but really it's 4 teams. I mean, if you're the Vikings, why would you call? He doesn't want to go there. There's 4 teams. If you're Carolina, why are you calling? He don't want to go there. And why would he? Russ wants legacy. Russ is chasing Brady, Breeze. He's chasing Peyton Manning. He's chasing Montana. He doesn't want to go to a startup. He doesn't want to go to a team, hey, young team. I mean, it's silly to think he'd go, I want to go to Carolina because Matt Rule is a young head coach and Christian McCaffrey. First of all, you'd probably have to give up Christian McCaffrey to get Russell Wilson. He wants to go, and people, pointed out, well, why the Chicago Bears? Well, for some reason, Russ likes Matt Nagy, their head coach, and he likes the offensive line. Okay. If you have a coach who will let you have a say or you like his offensive philosophy as opposed to Pete Carroll's, okay. Got an offensive line, maybe they're going to protect me a little more than Seattle's. Okay, I get it. But Russ, to me, is not being traded. I think eventually he'll be on another team, and it's probably going to be maybe in 2 years, depending. If the acrimony is real and it's serious. Remember when Aaron Rodgers said what he said after the title game? Oh my God, did you hear what Aaron Rodgers said? Has anybody said anything about that since then? Kind of calmed down, didn't it? The only thing we're talking about with Aaron Rodgers is he got engaged. There's nothing about the Packers. But at the time, oh my God, what's he saying? He's being cryptic. He's sending messages. Do I think Russell Wilson wants out? I think he wants to be heard. I think, and I was told this yesterday, Seattle looks at Russ differently than they did before. That Russ is bigger than the organization. Like he sees it as, this is about my brand. This is about business. This is about being a star. And they see that as, can we control that? And the word I was told is, it makes them nervous, Like, that's the only thing. And that's from a source, not with the Seahawks, by the way, but it's a source this is the same source who said, hey, this relationship isn't sustainable. And that's where I think it's interesting with Seattle with Russell Wilson. Do I think they're crazy if they move on from him? Yes. The cap hit, plus he is Seattle. He's the Seahawks. Nobody cares about Seattle if Russ leaves. Oh, DK Metcalf had a nice play. Great. Bobby Wagner made a great defensive stop. They become a highlight team. You're not a team you watch a game. You'll just tune in to go, okay, what happened with Tyler Lockett? Russ makes them relevant. They went 12-4. And I think what he's asking for is a seat at the table. We've all been there at Thanksgiving, where you have to sit at the little table when you're growing up, and then you eventually get to sit at the big table. I think Russ just wants a seat, just to be able to say, have we thought about, can we do this? And I think as long as Pete Carroll is there, he and Russ are not going to be on the same page offensively. Because Pete's philosophy is not the same as Russell Wilson's. Plain and simple. Yeah, Paul.
Dan, we were all discussing it while we were talking. We think you're absolutely right that part of Russell's play is he's a brand. He wants to expand that brand. He has a team around him. He wants to be more of a national athlete. The Rams trade to the Lions was on January 30th. I wonder if the Rams, because that seems like a franchise and a location that Russell Wilson would love to be in, if they would have known that he was possibly available, because he was on our show February 9th. The trade happened with Matthew Stafford 10 days earlier. I'm just saying, can you imagine if a team like the Rams knew Russell Wilson was in play?
No, I get it, but you can't trade him within the division. Can't.
For enough, you could.
Can't.
Yeah.
Nope. Unless you're sold that you can beat him. Because when Drew Bledsoe was sent to the Buffalo Bills by the Patriots didn't care they were going to face him. Lawyer Malloy signed with Buffalo after leaving New England. Bill Belichick wasn't concerned about those guys at all. But when you trade within the division, you're really signaling that guy, we're good. We're not too worried about him. But if you said the Rams could have Russell Wilson instead of Matthew Stafford, hell yeah. And Russ, and I'm sure his wife would love that too. Yes, McLevin.
The Eagles sent Donovan McNabb to the Redskins, and like everyone
exactly.
was so, but they knew it wasn't scary.
Yes.
He's much, much older, even older than Wilson.
Let me go back to Deshaun Watson. This was the trade. So the Texans received a 2017 first-round pick, number 12 overall, and they took Deshaun Watson. They traded with the Browns. So once again, if I said to you, who did the Texans trade with to get Deshaun Watson? Who did the Chiefs trade with to get Patrick Mahomes? You don't remember. You might remember in those towns, in those cities, but nobody goes, oh my God. Now we know what happened with the Bears and the 49ers. The Bears traded up one spot with the Niners to get Mitchell Trubisky. The Browns got a 2017 first-round pick. That was Jabril Peppers. 2018 first-round pick. Was that a defensive player, Paulie?
Denzel Ward with the fourth pick of the draft.
Well, he's good.
Yeah.
But you got Deshaun Watson. When you get your guy, you can get your guy. Get your guy. Yeah, McLevin.
Then the Browns got Baker the following year. So you could say it worked out for them in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, it wasn't a complete disaster. Same with the Bills and Josh Allen. Like, if you get the guy next year, you're okay, I guess. But remember the Browns passed on all these superstars for a long time.
I know.